Okay. All right. So most times when we are applying for open source programs, of which I've also been a victim myself, it's difficult to know exactly what your evaluators really want from you. Sometimes you just apply blindly, and some of us has at some point aced it, and some of us have also failed in some of our open source program application. And that is the reason why we have this webinar with the aim to teach everyone who is present here the best ways to write your proposals and actually ace your applications for any open source programs you're applying for. So that is the aim of today's webinar, and we are going to be looking at how to write proposals that stand out for your open source program applications. And for this webinar today, we have two guests, two phenomenal ladies in the house, and they are the ones who are going to take us by the hand and lead us through this very, very important topic. Very soon, we'll be having outreach applications coming up. We'll be having Google Summer of Code, Google Season of Docs, and all that. So we need to really know how to make our applications really stand out. And I'm really happy that our guests are already people who have gone through these processes, and they have ample knowledge on how we can really go about this. Okay, so I'll be introducing these two guests, and yeah, let me start from the first speaker. We have Edidiong Asipo. Okay, I'll be briefly introducing her right now. Edidiong is a software engineer at InterSwitch Group who is passionate about technical writing, contributing to open source, and building developer communities. Hello, Edidiong. Say hi to us. Let's hear your voice.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hello, Edidiong.
Okay, cool.
We are glad to have you join us. We also have another very, very extraordinary guest as well, who is joining all the way from India. Her name is Pavitra. Please pardon me. The second name might be a bit difficult for me to pronounce, but I'm going to give it a try. Pavitra, please do let me know if I'm getting it correctly. So we have Pavitra Esvaramurthy. Please let me know if I got this pronunciation. She's a core team member at Bokeh.
Almost right.
And she volunteers her time for some Wikipedia Foundation projects, and currently participating as a mentor and organization administrator for open source programs like Google Summer of Code, Outreach, and Season of Docs. So Pavitra, nice to have you here. Say hello.
Hi, nice to be here.
Okay, how about my pronunciation? How was it?
Almost right. Well done.
All right. Thank you so much, Pavitra, for joining. So our two guests are going to be taking the floor in the next few minutes to address different aspects of this topic that we have for today. So firstly, we are going to have Edidiong Asipo, who will be taking us through how to create impressive project proposals in open source projects. So Edidiong, I hope you're ready. The floor is yours.
All right. So let me try to. So I actually joined via my phone and my laptop. So let me try to share my screen. Okay, please let me know when you can see it. This one's fine. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Let me try to present it. All right. Hi, everyone. I will be talking about creating impressive project proposals in open source programs. I'll basically cover, explain to three different open source programs, what's different about those open source programs, and try to explain the importance or how to actually write an impressive project proposal as well. So just a bit about me. I am a software engineer at InterSwitch Group. I work as a technical writer for VLC, sorry, for Videoland, which owns VLC. So VLC is that media player we use that has supposedly has like a really high volume. And I love building developer communities. And some of the ones that I've worked with are Developer Circle, Yo, Open Source Community Africa, and She Code Africa as well. And then another important thing you need to know is that I love yellow. I feel like if there's anything you should take out of this session is that I love yellow. Well, don't mind me, that's not what. You take out like the importance of be how to write an open source project effectively. So that's pretty much all about me, and I would try to explain it as detailed as possible, having in mind that some people here may have not written a proposal before, while we have others that have tried writing a proposal but do write it in the right way. So I'll definitely put those two things in mind to try to explain. And if you have any question, please drop it in the comment section and I will respond. Amarachi, should it be after I'm done or during the session? If you're seeing the question.
No, the questions will be taken after the sessions, both yours and Pavitra.
Okay.
After the whole.
Okay, all right, no problem. So let me do that. Okay. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I would use 3 different open source programs to explain. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I have like prior experience with those open source programs. So the first one on the list is Google Summer of Code, right? Google Summer of Code is a global program focused on bringing in university students to working in like with open source organizations to get an experience of how real life projects work. So that means it's only for university students. If you're not in the university, you can't participate in Google Summer of Code. And then Google Summer of Code, like the name implies, is just for writing code. That if you're a technical writer, you can't participate there. If you're a designer, you can't participate there. It's just strictly for writing code. And then it lasts for 3 months, and it's also a paid program. So for it differs per country, but for Nigeria, it's like you get paid $3,000, which is over ₦1 million to work for that open source organization for 3 months. All right. And then the next one is Outreachy. Outreachy is a diverse internship, right? As opposed to Google Summer of Code, Outreachy, you can join Outreachy if you're a designer, technical writer, even as a community manager. They have different projects. It's not just strictly about code. And it also lasts for 3 months as well. And they pay $5,500. Well, no, I think round over this is like $6,000. But it also lasts for 3 months as well. And like I said, it's diverse. So you don't necessarily have to be able to write code to participate in that open source program. Then the next one is Season of Docs by Google, which is strictly just for technical writers. Remember how Google Summer of Code was just for people who could code? Google Season of Docs is just for people who can write. And again, this one lasts for like 3 to 5 months. So you can either choose if you want to work on the program for 3 months or if you want to work on the program for 5 months. And they pay $3,000. Like, I'm speaking for Nigeria. I know it has a different amounts for different countries. So yeah, now that you know about these 3 open source programs, like I mentioned, there are different and diverse open source programs, but I'm just speaking to this particular three of them because it's programs that I've tried to apply to like in the past. So how can you get accepted into any of these open source programs? These open source programs have different things, right? So for Google Season of Docs, you don't necessarily need to make a contribution before applying. For Outreachy, you have to make a contribution before applying. For Google Summer Code, you have to make a contribution before applying. But one thing that all 3 open source programs do is you have to submit a proposal. Like if whether you make a contribution or not, 3 of them have that particular thing in common, which goes further to show you that it is really, really important. The ability to be able to write a proposal effectively is important because that is what determines if you'd be accepted into the project or not. So this is basically answering the question that I said. What do they have in common? What they have in common is an impressive proposal. That's the only thing that can get you into any of those 3 open source programs. So like I mentioned, I think some people may have not written a proposal before, like generally. So I'll try to explain what a proposal is before going further to like explain how to actually write an impressive one for open source programs. So a proposal is basically like a plan or suggestion, especially a formal written one, put forward for consideration. What that means is it could either be a plan or a suggestion, or it could be both, right? So if I'm writing a proposal to work on the VLC project, so that means I have a plan. I'm telling them, okay, hey, this is what I want to do. Or I'm suggesting, or if your team already does this, but can we do it this other way? Do you understand? So it could either be like a plan of what you want to do, or it could be like a suggestion where you're suggesting something or suggesting an improvement. Because sometimes projects may not necessarily be just like straight to the point. They probably want you to suggest something, right? They want you to think about what or how to improve a particular project. So it's diverse in like different places. So it depends on the kind of project you're working on that the proposal may either come off as a plan or as a suggestion. So for open source programs, your proposal is what the mentor used to, like it's what increases or decreases your chances of getting accepted, because that is the final thing that the mentor looks at before saying, okay, hey, I'm taking a Gideon, or no, Gideon is not good enough for me, I'm going with Amarachi, right? So it's that proposal that everybody sees. Most times it doesn't go through one person. Like you already know, most open source organizations have different maintainers. So this proposal would go through every single person in that open source organization, those maintainers and open source organizations, and they all come together to agree on who the right person is. And another thing I'll point out is most times when you join an open source organization to contribute, you end up talking with just one person, right? And when you're writing your proposal, the mistake people make is when they're writing their proposal, they think, oh, this person already knows this thing because I already had a conversation with him or her about this particular thing. But they forget that this proposal will not be looked by only that person. So when you're writing a proposal, you should write it in a way that you've probably not had a conversation with any of the mentors before, like put in, like go all out for it literally, because the mentor may know that you're good enough. But so let's assume that like 5 people, right? And your mentor, which is like one of them, says, okay, hey, this person is good enough. And then the 5 other people say you're not good enough. They'll definitely go over you and choose someone else, right? So it's always important to write it as if, don't just write it specifically to a particular mentor you spoke with, because it's not just that person that will decide whether you get accepted or not. I hope you understand what the proposal is. So go further to explaining the importance of writing a proposal. So this is a short story. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But what I want to say here is given my experience with the 3 open source programs that I shared, which is Google Summer of Code, Outreachy, and Google Season of Docs. And those experiences that I had is basically what I've used to come up with, like the right things your proposal should contain. So for Google Summer of Code, I think that was like sometime in 2018, when at that time I didn't have prior experience to like making any open source contribution or whatever. Like I didn't even know what open source is for a start. And I remember Samson was always posting a lot about it at the time. So I reached out to him to give me like share some ideas of like what is it, how can I contribute to it, and all of that. And then luckily for me at the time, that was when Google Summer of Code was happening. And I was in 400 level. So for people that are not Nigerians, 400 level is your final year. So that's where I was at the time. And it meant that if I didn't get accepted to Google Season of Docs at the time, it meant that I wouldn't have passed at all, right? Like my proposal that would be the last chance I would have to contribute to Google Summer of Code. But I still went further to do it, right? And remember I said I didn't really have prior experience with it. So because of that program, I was able to make my first open source contribution and write my first proposal. And honestly, I know right now, I think I write a lot right now, but at the time, like, Egidion and writing we're enemies. I didn't know how to write, honestly. So I had to write my first proposal, like, in my entire world. And I kind of knew that I was not going to get accepted, because I think one of the things is you see different people in the organization, and you know, oh, hey, maybe it's not like a high chance. Maybe I was looking down on myself or something, which is wrong. Always be positive. That positivity is good. But I was just grateful that I had an opportunity to learn how to make my first open source contribution, and also how to write a proposal. So I didn't get accepted, and the next application was Outreachy. So Outreachy was pretty much interesting because I had to learn different things, right? It's not like Google Summer of Code, it's a different project. So I wasn't necessarily writing code. like Google Summer Code, I had to write like handle documentation and write sample codes as well. So I was also able to learn like what mentors wanted or what they didn't want. But unfortunately, again, I wasn't accepted for Outreachy. Then Google Season of Docs, and it just dawned on me, I think from the experience of both of them, I realized that, hey, mentors need certain things. Mentors want to see certain things. Because prior to that time, I'd always assumed that since I spoke with this mentor already knows what I have in mind. So I don't really need to like say so much, just say what you have to say. But then I realized that no, it's not just one mentor that chooses. Like the person you're communicating with is just one of the people who would decide if you're good enough for the project or not. So with that, so I got accepted for Google Season of Docs. I would share a link to my proposal here. So you can also go through it, because I'll definitely share that while I'm working on this, but I'll drop a link as well so you can go through it directly. So to write a good and impressive proposal, what are the things you need to do? This is an overview of it. I'm going to explain everything one after the other. But then basically you need to choose like the right open source projects, because if you're not choosing the right projects for your skill set or things that you're interested in, chances are you won't understand the project well enough to write a proposal. Because writing a proposal, an impressive proposal, means you understand every single thing there is to know about that project, because you want to be able to explain it to someone else. And then you want the mentors to understand that, oh, this lady or this person really gets what we want. She or she really understands what we're trying to achieve. And in order to do that, you need to research effectively, start writing, submit your proposal for review, and provide the proposals before submitting. So this is like an overview, like I said. So I'm going to explain all of them right now. So the first one is choosing the right proposal, or the right project rather. So remember, the proposal is your plan or suggestion about a project. So that means you need to choose a project first, then write a proposal for that particular project. So what I've learned over the years is when you want to choose a project, it's important to go through every single open source organization that has been approved for Google Season of Docs, Google Summer of Code, or Google Season of Docs, or Outreachy, or any other open source program as well. Go to the website and look at all the open source organizations that are there. And most times these open source organizations have different projects. So you also look at all those projects. I know it seems like a lot, but it gives you an opportunity to see every single thing and decide which of them you're interested in. So when you've gone through all the projects, try to list out at least 5 projects that you'd most likely be interested in. Sometimes these projects may not be projects that you necessarily have knowledge about. No, it's important. I'm saying, so let's say you've seen like 5 ones you're interested in. You probably are really knowledgeable about 3, but you're not completely knowledgeable about 2. Just add it and make it up to 5. So when you choose the 5 projects from tons of projects, because sometimes you can literally be like up to like 50 projects or more. So you definitely see a lot of projects really. So choose at least 5 projects from the ton of projects you've seen. And when you've decided on the 5, it must not be on that particular day. Maybe when your head is fresh again, go through those 5 projects again in depthly and decide which of these projects would you love to work on, and then choose 2 projects. So ideally, it's advisable to work on 1 project because it gives you an opportunity to actually go all out for that particular project. But like everything in life that has advantages and disadvantages, the disadvantage with that is if you don't get accepted for that particular one, then it's like there is no chance of getting accepted for the other one. But then when you work on 2 projects, it means that your chance of getting accepted is higher. It's almost like that saying of not putting all your eggs in a basket, something like that. So, but again, this also depends on your capabilities. Are you working? Do you think you have time to focus on 2 projects? Or do you think you have like the capacity to do that? If you don't have the capacity, then it's ideal to focus on 1. But if you think it's something that you can do, then definitely go for 2 projects. And the next thing for you to do is join the open source organization's channel. Why that is important is some open source channels have like a good onboarding process. And remember we spoke about this yesterday with Samson and PyCon Africa. When you go into some open source organizations communication channel, you see that they're really welcoming. They're like maintainers that are active and willing to like respond to you, while there are others that you send them a mail and like 2 weeks after they have not responded to your mail. So it's also important to understand that these people may, most open source maintainers are most likely volunteers, right? So it doesn't mean you should be rude to them or be upset that they didn't respond on time. But again, you also want to achieve something and you also have like a short time frame. So the faster you speak with someone, the faster you get to understand the project, the better for you. So you join the channel and see, okay, hey, which are these people welcoming? Do they have like a good onboarding process for you as a newbie? Or even if you're not a newbie, like you want to understand the essence behind the project. So you join the communication channel and decide. So assuming you chose 5 projects, this can be one of the ways you use to check if you want which of these projects you want to work on based on the community or the open source maintainers or like the skill set you have. And once you join the communication channel, try to indicate your interest in the project. So what I would say about that is, don't say, hey, my name is Edidiong, I want to work on this project. No. So it's important to know that these open source maintainers, even though they would be trying to tell you that, hey, they accept everybody, they want the best for their projects, right? Because they know that Google is paying you for this and they want that project to be successful. So from the beginning, they're looking out for like the best of the best. Obviously, they're really open to accepting beginners, but again, beginners can do exceptionally well. So when you're introducing yourself, instead of, hey, my name is Edidiong, I want to work on this project, it should be like, hey, my name is Edidiong, I work as software engineer at InterSwitch, I have prior experience with this and that, and I would really love to work on this project because of this and that. I have gone through the project proposal and I understand what you want me to do, but maybe I need more clarification on something. So the difference between the first example and the second one is it shows that I am really interested in that project. I went all out to like do my research on that project. I know what they're interested in and I had the experience to work on that particular project. Again, it's possible that you may not have experiences to talk about, but just add more information. Maybe just say, hey, I'm really passionate about this project, or let's say VLC, for instance. I have been using VLC since I was in secondary school, right? So saying something like, oh, I've been using this project for like a really long time and I'll be super excited to work on the project, something like that, something that makes them connect with you. So those are like steps of choosing the right project. So after choosing the right project, the next thing you need to do is to research effectively. So this research is what is going to help you write your proposal. So after this session, the next thing I'll talk about is writing the proposal. So I know I would have just gone straight into talking about writing the proposal, but what I wanted to do is explain what happens before you write the proposal and how those things help you write an impressive proposal, really. So in order to, once you've entered the open source project, it's important to not wait to be spoon-fed. Again, some of these maintainers are volunteers. This is not their full-time role. So don't just expect someone to tell you every single thing. No, that's not who they're looking for. They're looking for someone who is interested in researching, someone who is interested in finding out things for themselves and like sharing those ideas with them for them to now comment on it and say, oh, maybe do this or do that, right? So always once you join the open source organization, always carry out a lot of research about that particular project. It's important to discover or understand every single thing you need to know about that project. Well, I think every single thing may seem a bit may seem like a lot. So maybe understand enough about that project, really. And when you do that, you now reach out to the proposed mentors of that project to help you, because obviously there'll be a point where you have certain issues or you need more clarification on something. And again, this also comes down to researching effectively. So when you're asking questions, I think Bolaji wrote an interesting article on how to ask questions effectively. I'll try to drop that as well. I know I've said I'm going to drop over 2 things. If I don't do that before this session, please remind me in the comment section and I will drop it there. So when you want to ask a question, don't just go and say, hey, let's say the mentor's name is Amarachi, for instance. Hey, at Amarachi, I want to work, maybe I don't understand this thing, full stop, and then that's all. Then let's imagine Amarachi did not respond 2 days after. You know, drop, I'm trying to help your organization. Why are you not responding to me? Because I know I've seen that. Always remember that these people might be people that are volunteering, and even if they're not volunteering, being polite is also really important, because these mentors are not just looking for people that are smart, but they're also looking for people that they can work with as well. So always ask questions effectively. So I was trying to explain or give like 2 scenarios rather. So the first scenario would be, hey, my name is hey, I have an issue with this problem. And the next scenario would be, hey, I have an issue with this problem. I tried this and I tried that. I tried to research about this, but it didn't work. What can I do, or can you help me out? So the difference between these 2 is the first one just looks like I just asked a question, but the second one says, hey, I'm asking a question, but I made an effort to check about this thing, but I couldn't find any answer. I'm reaching out to you to help me out with this thing. So those little things are things that mentors also pick as well. And most important thing in the research first is writing down those things you find out. Trust me, it is so important. So it's one thing to research and like see different things, like, okay, hey, I know this, I know this other one. But it's another thing to, once you find something important, create like a Google Docs and go and paste it there. That's what I did for VLC. So I was going through all the information, trying to like find out different things. I created a docs called VLC draft, and every single thing that I found that was important about my project, the project I wanted to work on, I copied it and pasted it there, just like keep it there whenever I need it, or if I ever need that project, or if I ever need that information, I would go there to find it. I don't know if anybody has ever experienced a feeling where it's usually when you really want something that you can't find it. I don't know if it's just me that has felt that way. So it could be like your pen. So you've always seen that pen somewhere, but the day you want the pen, you can't find the pen, right? So I think it's also similar as well. So when you find this information, these things that could help you in your project proposal, don't just assume that your head understands or your head will remember this thing few days after. It's important to document those things somewhere. So when you start writing your proposal, you can easily go back to those places and pick it. Oh, so let's round up in 5. All right. So you go back to those places and like search for the information you want and all of that. Just to try to wrap up as quickly as I can. So the next thing is to actually start writing the proposal. So these are the things that are important to be in your proposal. You can also feel free to add other things as well. So let me try to show you, I believe you can still see my screen, show you different proposals. So I'll show you that of VLC and that of outreach as well. So this is for VLC. So remember I said the first thing is to explain why the project is important. So why this is important is because like I mentioned, for every open source project or every open source organization, they always have, let's say, 2 to 3 projects. And most often, they will not be accepting people for those 3 projects. It may most likely be 2 or most likely be 1. And the reason why that happens is, why they put those 3 projects is because they're still trying to figure out which of them is the best, which of them should they go for. So instead of starting with telling them your name, well, they care about your name, but that's not what they really care about. Start with why that project is important. I know you may think that is not necessary, but remember that they will not be picking every single project and will not be picking every single person. So it's possible that you're working on a project that they won't pick, which automatically means that you won't get accepted. So you need to let them know why that project is important. So an example would be, so this is my project for the proposal I submitted for outreaching. What I started with was my name and GitHub and my blog and my IRC handle. They will not even go through, they will not even look at those things twice. They'll just scroll down to see what I'm doing, because that's not really their concern at that point. I don't even understand. So the important thing you need to do is start with why this project is important. So what I did for VLC was, the project was to modernize and rewrite the VLC user documentation. So I started with why user documentation is important. And I dropped information that, oh, hey, VLC has been downloaded like 3 billion times. And if the documentation is not good enough for people, then it means people won't be able to use it. So I identified the problem and why this open source, or why this particular project was, okay, let me share it into my proposal now. So I was able to identify like the problem, just say, okay, hey, this is why this project is important. So if at all, they were like, obviously they were like different projects, right? But then I told them, okay, hey, this is why this one is important. This is why you need to go for this particular project. So so that covers why the project is important. And then the next one is explain the goals of the project. So what do you intend to achieve in this project if you're given the opportunity to do that? Let me just quickly go through the goals. What I did here again, just show more light, and that was like creating kind of analysis. So I analyzed, remember they wanted a new project, right? A new documentation platform. So what I did was I analyzed the old documentation platform, spotted out the bad things with that platform, and tried to come up with like a verdict of why I think the one I want to work on would be better. Do you understand? So when they see those things, they would know that I actually took an effort to really research and really understand what was wrong with the current documentation that we have. So again, remember I said a proposal could either be a plan or a suggestion. So So I was, or both. So I was mostly suggesting and also giving them like a plan to back up that suggestion that I gave to them as well. So you need to let them know like the project goals. So my project goals was to restructure the documentation, update it. I just quickly explained why, what I wanted to do with the project really. So you need to explain the project goals, and then you also need to add project timelines. So project timelines again also shows that you really start down to like figure out how long it will take for you to work on each particular task to be able to complete the project. It shows that you didn't just say, oh, hey, I want to work on this project, but you actually calm down and like thought about like everything you need to do, the steps you need to take, and you're able to fit like a timeline into the proposal. Again, those timelines may change in the future, but it shows that you were considerate enough to actually think about what you want to do for each of them. So I'll quickly scroll through the timelines. So since this was the documentation, I literally explained, because I had to do everything from scratch. So let me just start from week 2. So I could say, hey, for this week, I want to work on the downloads, work on frequently asked questions, and all of that, right? Then if you see for week 1, which was more detailed, I explained that, because at the time, they didn't have a repository for the project. So what I said was, if the repository was not created before I started, I will create a repository. So this shows that I was thinking about everything. Like I didn't want to leave anything out. I didn't say, oh, I'll just go and submit a pull request to the repository. I said, if the repository was not created, I would create it. But if it was, like it shows that I was thinking about those things, right? Yeah, so this is like pretty much the timeline. Again, these timelines may change, but then it just gives an overview. And your experience, what kind of experience do you have with that particular thing? So the mistakes I made in prior open source organization program that I submitted was, I was just adding experience about everything. So let's say I was applying to work on a documentation. I was gonna add experience of the app that I created some years ago. Do you understand? Instead of trying to add experience about that particular experience that would complement the product I'm applying for. So let me show you that of outreach really quickly. I don't know how many more minutes I have. Yeah, so this is like for experience, right? So what I did for experience is I added open data kits, which was my first open source contribution. Added Africa Wikimedia developers, which is not even important. Like it doesn't even make any sense. It's not important to this particular project I was applying to, right? It wasn't necessary. But for some reason, Edition decided to add them. And what they would do here is they will just skip it because it doesn't really, this will not make them change their mind or decide that, oh, hey, we're going to pick this particular person or not. So it's important to add experiences that matter to that project. And again, another thing I should mention is the quality of this experience or your contributions to that organization is more important than the quantity. And that's another mistake I made with outreach. So with outreach, I just thought, oh, if they see that Dylan has contributed 100 contributions, made 100 contributions rather, they would give me the role. But they care more about the quantity of those contributions. So some of the contributions I made outside my core task or outreach was like changing minor things, like let's say, okay, for this one, for instance, fixed typo, completed in X. So I just removed E from the T while there was somebody else doing like a proper API documentation. And my idea was, okay, hey, no, as long as I do or work, so you can see now like this Google, all these are just like really, really minor things. But my idea was just work on it. As long as you have like 100, nobody will leave you. As opposed to working on something that actually makes sense, something that, not that this doesn't make sense, it does, but they want to see something, let them be surprised, let them realize that if they don't pick a Gideon, then the project will not work. Do you understand? That's how good your proposal should be. Like, it's almost like selling yourself to them, letting them know that if it's not you, then that proposal will not really work. And then the next thing is to explain why you think you're the right person for the role, which just speaks to what I said now. So try to explain. It could be, if you don't have prior experience, it could be that you've been using the project for like a really long time. Like me, I said I've been using it since I was a child, which is true, right? And like I've been using the project, like I can't remember when I started using VLC, but I think the excitement of just being able to like contribute to the program was really interesting. And I also loved writing at the time. So I shared experience of how I love writing and why I think writing is important. Like how I'm ready to really work on this project, how I really understand this project. I also said that because I had to write a user documentation, right? So I also said that hey, I am a user, so I know what users feel about this project. So as a user, I think I'm the right person to work on this project, not just as a user, as any user, but a user who has been using these things since she was a child. Like, who would not give that to me? Think about it. So I'm not saying you should try to be I don't know, but just try to let them know that you are the right person for the role. And the next thing is why you would love to work in the organization. So for Wikimedia, it was everybody uses Wikimedia, right? Everybody uses Wikimedia to like search for stuff. So I threw in how Wikimedia helped me, how Wikimedia helped me to like work on my project in university, how it has helped like a lot of people across the world. So it could be anything. Are you trying to apply for S-Links? Talk about how it has helped you make your JavaScript code clear enough. Like just find something that about that open source organization that is really, really amazing and just speak to, I'm not saying you should lie, but then try to speak to how that thing has helped you improve your life in one way or the other. It doesn't mean that you should use the platform for like over 10 years like I did, but you could start using that platform when you find out about it and just figure out what is interesting about that particular platform and write it. So the goal here is write as much as you can, but also don't write too much. But whatever the case or situation is, try to sell yourself and let them know that you are the right person for the role. The next thing you need to do after writing the proposal is, again, I forgot to mention this, it is important to write your proposal on time. Don't just start 2 days when you're supposed to submit, start on time, because you need to submit the proposal to someone to review it. So the first person you submit proposal to is not your mentor, like your friend, maybe an expert in the field. It could be me, it could be anybody that already has experience with, let's say, working with open source organizations or working with that particular project. So the reason why this is important is if you submit it to your mentor directly, chances are you probably made a mistake that you didn't notice, and your mentor would see that and probably think, they'll make you feel like, oh, hey, it's okay, you can make mistakes. But have you remembered something that says first impression matters? I don't know if you can remember. I don't know even if I can remember that, but first impression really matters. So the first time you're sending it to them, they should be impressed at that first time, because there are other people that are going to send it to them as well. So they might take note of, oh, hey, Dijon is really good, or oh, hey, Zenap is really good. I think she's like, her chances of getting accepted is really high. So it's important to share it with someone else. When the person finished reviewing it and when you're done with implementing the feedback, share it with your mentor. So why it's important to share it with your mentor is you may have made some assumptions of what you thought the project was about, but your mentor would let you know that, oh, hey, I see that you're thinking about it this way, but this is not what we are saying, right? And then they give you like a clear example of what they want to achieve, as opposed to finishing the project and just submitting it without giving it to your mentor to proofread. That would make it would definitely, like, there's really no one way to this. That may also give you that may also make you get accepted rather, but it's also important to show your mentor so they see that, oh, hey, this is what you're thinking of, and then they clarify if you're like on the right track or not. And after you're done with reviewing, or like after your mentors and the experts in that particular field is done with reviewing your proposal, the next thing you need to do is like proofread the proposal. So when you're doing that, the first time is try to read it out loud. Like think about it as, oh, hey, just pretend you're the mentor and read it. If you were the mentor, would you understand what you are saying? Do you understand? So don't just write. Just try to think and put yourself in the shoes of the mentor and think, oh, hey, if I was this mentor, would I actually understand what I'm saying? Would I see the point? Would I see where I'm driving or to where I'm going to? It's important to do that. I am almost done. And once you do that, then also try to edit it as well. And the next thing you need to do is, of course, submit the proposal and hopefully get accepted after you submit the proposal. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you learned one or two things from this session, and I wish you the very best in applying for your any of the open source programs, really. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Edith Young. I just wish the time was not running so fast so that you can throw more lights and more lights and more lights. But thank you so much for this few minutes. It was amazing. And yeah, Edith Young mentioned something when she started out. She said that your mentor is not the only one who is going to be looking through your proposal, that your proposal is likely going to be passing through a lot of other people in the organization. Okay, so which means that there is something these evaluators really want to see, and sometimes the applicants don't know what it is exactly. They just go ahead and, apply and pray to God or whatever for the application to scale through. So our next speaker is going to be telling us how to actually craft these proposals, but from an organizer's point of view or from an organization's point of view. She's going to be telling us what exactly makes our proposal stand out and what exactly is this our evaluators looking for when they pick up these our proposals on first impression. What will they see in that proposal that will make them feel that, wow, this proposal really worth giving a chance? Okay, so we're going to have Pavitra speak to us on how to write a winning proposal from an evaluator's perspective. Pavitra, over to you.
Hi, yes, let me present. Okay, okay, I hope all of you can see my screen, and I hope everyone can hear me as well. Just if you can't, just stop me at any point and let me know. Okay, can just one of you tell me if you can see my screen?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
okay. Okay, thank you. Because I was having some network issues in between. Okay, so writing a winning proposal, I shall start by introducing myself. So I'm Pavitra. Hello, I think you can see me. I started my open source journey with Season of Docs last year. It was the first edition. And right now, I am a co-developer of Bokeh. Bokeh is an interactive data visualization library. I contribute to Wikimedia Foundation projects, and I'm also an organization administrator and mentor for Google Summer of Code, Season of Docs, and Outreachy this year. So I'll be talking about my experiences, challenges, learnings, both as an applicant and as an evaluator. Why evaluator? Because at the end of the day, if you want to impress your evaluator, you want to know what they want to see, right? Open source outreach programs. So as Eddie Leong mentioned, these are initiatives to get more people involved in open source. Some are meant for students, some are meant for underrepresented folks in tech, and a lot of these are also open for everybody. So you might have heard of some of these programs. Today, we'll be focusing on the first three, but I do have some experience with almost all mentioned here. If you want to apply to them and you want help, you can reach out to me personally. Now, so many programs exist, but why should you participate? First, you get to learn something new, something different. Second, you get to contribute to a real world project. Third, this is my favorite, is that you get a dedicated mentor. It makes a huge difference having a mentor. Fourth, you also get paid to do it. And as far as I've seen, right, people who participated in these programs have had a life-changing experience. For example, Outreachy, they have career opportunities chat, a networking chat, they have a travel allowance for conferences. All these added benefits, they help lay like a solid foundation on which you can build your career. Now you know why you should participate. Let's go on to how to participate. So most of these programs have an application process, and your proposal is a key part of your application. And my talk is going to focus especially on the proposal. So why is this key? Is because organizations are required to select students based on their proposal. Of course, you have to make prior contributions, you need to be involved in the community, all these are required, but you will be writing about this in your proposal. So when your evaluator reads your proposal, they know that you've done so many contributions, you've participated in the community and all that. So proposal is very important. And I'm going to talk you through how to draft one. I think these are the key steps. First, you need to have an idea. Second, you need to describe the idea, you need to have content, and third, you need to present the idea in an impressive way, right? Let's start with idea. So idea is the title, it's the topic of your project. It's a one-line explanation of what you're going to be working on. How do you get this idea? Luckily for us, at least Season of Docs, Season Summer of Code, and Outreachy, they have ideas pages where the organizations themselves have listed out some ideas, right? Let's actually look at some ideas. So this is the Outreachy ideas list. This is one idea mentioned here. There are a lot many. So the next question is how to select an idea. And as you see, there are some skills mentioned. So this is something you can use to gauge if this project is the right one for you. Let's also look at GSOC and Outreach and Season of Docs ideas pages. This is Wikimedia's Summer of Code ideas page. Again, there is skills mentioned, skills required mentioned. Zooming in a little. All ideas pages will have a title, some description, skills required, and some link for you to go find more information. If you can't find more information there, you can always ask your mentors for it, right? And next, Season of Docs. Yes, this is Bokeh's Season of Docs ideas page from this year. And documentation is different from technical projects, right? So skills required is not very apt. So we have a category. Here it says technical writing. We also had a UX and research categories. But I want you to focus on the very first line. Here it says the following ideas are flexible. What does this mean? This means that as an applicant, you are expected to build upon the ideas given here. And a lot of Season of Docs projects are a little flexible. One, because the program started last year. And two, documentation is a little vague compared to a technical project, right? So coming back to how do you select the right one for you? First, go through all the projects. I know editing said it as well, and it's important that you go through all the projects and see what you have in store. Second, choose a project, not an organization. One thing I've seen happen is people run behind organizations, right? Mozilla sounds good, Wikimedia sounds good, so let me just do any project with them. That's not the right way to look at this, because unless you're interested in the project, you wouldn't be able to really succeed in it in the application or in the actual project completion period. And how do I shortlist projects is first, go through all, see the skills required, and I just reduce it to half, right? I reject 50%. Then again, I reject another 50%. Say now I'm left with like 25 projects. And then I again try to shortlist it down to 10, 5, and then I come down to 1 or 2 projects. Cool. Two main things to keep in mind is when you select a project, try to keep it at the edge of your comfort zone, right? I participated in Outreachy 2 years back, but I did not like complete the application process because I had selected a project way outside my comfort zone. I thought I could do it, but no, it's hard. And if you select a project which is too easy, you won't be learning much and you won't have fun when you actually go do your Outreachy. So at the edge of your comfort zone, that sweet spot, that's perfect to choose a right project. And second, when you have flexible projects like in Season of Docs, stick to 2 main topics. Why? Because you can under-promise but over-deliver. Saying you will be completing 10 projects but only be able to deliver 1 is not as good as say you just promise 2 projects, but if you have time, you can give 3 or 4. That is a much better impression in the long run. Now you have an idea. Let's go to content. When I think of content, I think about details, and the details should have a structure, right? And what I did was I started with details when I wrote my Season of Docs proposal. So there are a lot of things I want to include in my proposal, right? I want a timeline, I want an about me, I want to list my contributions. There are just so many things, and this is what I had. It's a mess. There are a lot of things. I don't know where to go from here. So let's take a step back and Start with a structure in mind. Think about it like explaining your project to a stranger, right? Your project idea to a stranger. What is the first thing you would do? You would introduce yourself. So I started with a small, short introduction. And next, I don't want to bore them, so I'll jump right into what I'm going to do. I'll give them the exact goals. After this, if they're still interested, I can tell them why this is important. I can describe these goals, right? I can tell them what impact it will have and how many people have asked for this, and all that can come here. After this, I need to tell them what is my plan to accomplish this. That's where your timeline comes in. The how and when. In this week, I will do this, this, this. And then why you? So the first four is your project description. You've given them a good laid out project plan. But why should you be the one doing it? Here's where you can talk about your past contributions. You can tell them, hey, I have solved these three, four issues, which means I know your code base well. And I know this project, so I can be a good person to complete it. Next, you can list out any past projects and experience you've already had. This again shows that you are capable enough to complete this project. And after this, anything else you want to write can go here, right? Some key points to keep in mind here is go through past year's accepted proposals and get an understanding of what a good proposal looks like for this organization and in general. Refer your other fellow applicant proposals because this is open source. Most proposals will be hosted somewhere in the open. So go see how high the bar is, see how much in detail you need to go. So it's important to do that research. Next, start early. Starting early is just so important. I cannot stress this enough because I remember I started like 2 weeks before and I could barely complete it in time. You need time to get feedback. You need a good proposal takes time to to draft properly and like to do the presentation and everything. And lastly, as I said, get feedback. Get feedback from your friends, family, mentors, whoever you can find, just get feedback from them and then apply the feedback, then repeat the process. Most importantly, though, be honest and trust yourself. It's important in open source, honesty is always appreciated and it always pays off. Just show your projects and show your blog posts and show how much you are interested. Authenticity just has a very special spark to it, which as an evaluator, I can see it when I read an honest proposal, right? And trust yourself. Once you've gone through all the proposals, once you've done your research, you know what you're going to do. So trust yourself and start writing. Now let's go to presentation. You have all the content ready, but you want to present it well. There are two key aspects of presentation. First is readability, and second is appearance, the looks, the good looks, right? Let's start with readability. These are three basic things: short paragraphs, simple sentences, good grammar. Not very difficult to do, but makes a huge difference. And appearance is having clear section headings. When I said about me, deliverables, just make sure these are very prominent instead of just having plain text throughout, because it looks nice, it looks appealing. Images and prototypes. In GSOC and outreachy proposals, you can add wireframes, you can add some images to explain your concepts better. All this just adds to the looks of your proposal. And use colors. As you can see, I love purple. Just use colors. It makes everyone happy. In presentation, we'll be focusing on completeness, polish, and finesse. You're just going that extra mile to make your proposal perfect, right? Now, let's look at my proposal. But this time, we'll be looking at it from an evaluator's perspective. Okay? So here is my proposal. My proposal was improved documentation for Wikimedia's technical documentation and videographers. So I see that there are two main topics, and it's very clear what this applicant is trying to accomplish. Good, we can move on. About me. Okay, so they've given some details and short, simple paragraphs. I'm not getting bored here reading this. It's just short and sweet. I can move on. Awesome. The next point, we are getting straight into it. They've included a summary outline at the top, which is nice. The deliverables are one-liners. Awesome. There is also a stretch goal, which shows me that the applicant is thoughtful. They know how much they can do, right? And they also don't want to overpromise, as I said. Then we go to discussions. Okay, I can see that the applicant has done some research. They have gone through past documentation. They have read blog posts. They have also quoted it. So this is the first point, and the second one, which is the second half of the proposal, right? For videographers. Again, I see some good research. They have a clear idea what to do. Moving on, there is a timeline. It's split week-wise, and each week has very specific goals. Nice. Not just is it specific, it's also achievable, right? Improve the documentation style guide. It's very specific, and it's only one page, which means it can be done in a week. And lastly, we have past contributions, awesome, and other commitments. This is nice because now I know that they're being upfront about how much time they have. I've written I'm a full-time college student here, so I just want to be honest and tell them, hey, I have all these other things to do, but I'm also interested in this. So, and I've also given them a clear plan about how I'm going to manage my time, even with these commitments. So all of this, just as an evaluator, now I'm confident that this, even if something comes up, this applicant will tell me beforehand. The project will not suffer because of their commitments. So now that we've gone through my proposal, so that's almost the gist of it. And I want to end this with some quick tips I have. Quality over quantity. Anybody who has gone through this process will tell you quality is more important than quantity. Always. If an applicant is doing it is submitting 10 pull requests, but all of them are say just spelling mistake fixes, and another applicant is maybe just submitting one pull request, but they have gone through an entire documentation page, done some rearrangement and all that. So you see that matters. Like also say an applicant has better commit messages than another contributor. So quality is more important. Communication is key. An evaluator wants to know that they can communicate with you during the project period. Because these programs are completely online, right? The only way for this to succeed is to have good rapport with the applicant. So a way for you to show that you are a good communicator is start posting your messages on public forums, because most projects have a public discussion chat. Second, ask very specific questions. I think Eric Young mentioned this as well, that instead of saying, how can I get started? You can say, I've gone through this, I've seen on Stack Overflow, and I've gone through your documentation pages, but I still have this one doubt. Can you please help me? It's always better. And help fellow applicants. As I said, open source always appreciates honesty, kindness, helpfulness, all of these good qualities. Just show an evaluator this person can be a member of a broader community, can not just complete this project, but maybe become a long-term contributor. I can work with them long-term. Next, focus on learning and not the result. I know almost after 3 programs, at the end, right, before submitting the application, I've seen people just doubt themselves. Even though they have a very good application, they think it's not good enough, and then they don't submit it because they think they won't get accepted. And it's always heartbreaking to see that. So instead, if you just focus on learning, right, going through the application process itself is a big learning. Just do it because you want to learn and submit. We can think about the results later. Become a part of the community. So most projects have discussion forums. They also have open video chats, meetings. So because it's open source, it is somewhere you can go and join and participate. So put in that extra effort to meet other people in the community, talk to them. So you can ask them to review your proposal. You can get more ideas from these other discussion forums. So that's very helpful. Just apply. As I said, it's heartbreaking to see when people don't apply. Just remember that you miss all the shots that you don't take. Okay, so I hope to see you all soon. And with that, I end this talk and open for questions. Awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Pavitra, for this session. Just apply. Yeah, that's the key word. Just apply. With all the knowledge we've garnered from today's session, I hope we turn out very beautiful proposals in the coming open source programs. Please, if you have any questions for Edidion or Pavitra, let's take them in the next 2 minutes. Just drop them on the comments. And in the next 2 minutes, if there are none, then I would assume there are no questions. And if eventually you have one later on, you can send them a chat on Twitter. Waiting for questions. Any question? Okay, Kainde is asking, please. All right, so I said, Pavitra, thank you so much for the session, and I encourage everybody to just apply, and I'm hoping to see more applications. I hope everybody here today will participate in one or two open source programs that will be coming up very soon. And then there is a question here, which I directed to Edith Young. I didn't know she wasn't hearing me. Oh my God. So Kainde was asking if outreach is open to everybody. So I guess by everybody, she means male, female, workers, students, whether it's just open to everybody.
Oh, okay. So outreach is open to just women, and well, people that we are underrepresented. But over the years, I think they started last year, either last 2 years, opened it to anyone. So male, female, trans, anyone. But I think their goal is they always people that are underrepresented, right? So when you are filling the form, don't get thought, oh, everything is working well for me. I'm not saying you should lie. Even if everything is working well for you, then maybe you're not the right person for outreach. Because the goal of outreach is to help people that don't have, like, have not had this opportunity before, or need like extra money, or just want to like learn. Not necessarily people that are already doing exceptionally well. So if you're already doing exceptionally well, give space to others. Yeah, because if they see that, they won't accept your proposal.
All right, thank you so much. Kinda, I hope that answers your question. We are actually out of time, so I won't be taking any more questions, but for those who are asking for links to the presentation, I believe you get them. I believe you get the slides, okay, the link to the slides. So we'll communicate that after the session. So once again, thank you so much, Pavitra and Edith Young. You both are the MVPs of today, and thank you too for Zainab and Samson Godi. I'm glad to have you here. And then thank you as well to every other person who joined the session and stayed put to the end. Feel free to share the knowledge you've gained from these sessions. Share on social media, tag Shecode Africa, tag Oscar Africa, use the hashtag Oscar webinar or Shecode Africa as well. Okay, and if you're not a member of any of these communities, especially Shecode Africa, I'm dropping a link so you can sign up and become part of our our Slack community where all the magic really happens. Okay, so thank you all so much once again for joining this session, and good luck in your next applications, right? And thank you too to our guests for being here. Someone is still asking about the slides. They will be sent. Okay, thank you so much for joining. Bye.